the biggest question we got like an 8-part question. And it pertained to multi-location websites and how to set those up properly. So how I do on my multi-location is, first of all, I'll have a branded homepage, and then I'll have, let's just call it brand.com for simplicity purposes. And then I'll go forward and have brand.com/location1. Okay? And so let's just use an example. So we have, let's use a dentist as an example. That would be the location one. That would be your dentist in Baltimore, dentist in whichever location, right? And it's like, so I handle that the same way as I do a single location site where the homepage I'm ranking for the most broad term, right? It's going to have your highest traffic. It's going to be your least specific term. It's your dentist, your criminal lawyer, right? Or it's the most broad term. From there, it would be brand.com/location1/ any specific service for that. So if I'm going for veneers, implants, Invisalign, dentures, whatever. Those. So essentially, how I set it up, and this might seem a bit redundant, but this siloing process has worked really well for me. Is I will have location one set up just like a single location, and I'll have not quite duplicate pages, but I'll have the same theme pages for the other locations, unless for some reason those locations don't offer Invisalign or something. And I still might, which I don't know why they want it, but whatever. I still might even add it in just because your brand does it.
Yeah.
And, it wouldn't be a big deal to pull traffic in and say, hey, we do those at our whatever office, our location 3 office. Would you like me to book an appointment for you? And you can have, kind of like a cooperative ecosystem for your lead gen there. But that's the way I like to structure the sites. It's as easy as that. In terms of the actual URL structure, it's going to be contingent on, I'm saying brand.com, but, whether it's an exact match, partial match, brand, it's that. That's going to depend on how I structure my URL, and I don't, in our format here, I can't really get into that. I'd almost need a spreadsheet to show the difference, but as long as you have the big picture down, it's as simple as that. In terms of linking the GMBs and how that's done,
where do you link that, Mark?
What's that?
Where do you link that? That you got 50 GMBs?
Yeah, if you have a GMB for each location.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I got confused for a second there.
So there's, I like to look at what the map pack's producing. That can help in a lot of cases. For me, if it's a completely different city, or even in a suburb situation where all of the other dentists have their suburb office linked out from the GMB, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I know there's even a blog post on Web20. It's a case study we did, and it was based on Chaz took a locksmith listing, and it was multi-location inside of one city. Now for that, and this was really interesting because it was also filtered when we picked the client up.
Oh, okay.
It was filtered, and it's a cool blog post. Check it out on the Web20 Ranker blog. You guys, you can too if you want, but
I think I've seen it
more for
already.
them. Yeah, probably.
I look at that site quite a bit.
You do. You do. Yeah, but it actually ended up doing really well. I think I don't remember if it was one location or collectively, But I mean, I think it was collectively, they were churning like 225 calls.
And those were all locally close together, right?
Yeah.
And you linked all the GMBs to the homepage,
Exactly.
not individuals.
So here's what Chaz did. When we first took it over, there were individual location pages, and each of the GMBs were linked to those individual location pages. What Chaz did was he kept the location pages, and this is important because the last time we had this discussion, his strategy was still the same. He kept the location pages. He just linked back to the main page. That's the big loss, the big city ranking.
Yeah.
But he kept the location pages, but linked them back to the main city page, and then he changed all of the GMBs to link to the main city URL. And that not only helped on filter it, but it ranked like gangbusters. And like I said, we checked the calls. I have it posted in it's a case study-ish type thing, but I'm pretty sure it was like 220, 250 calls.
Wow.
It started producing a month, and yeah, so there's two different, kind of things there. And I know Chaz was also talking about another way he links for multi-location, which I don't even remember what he was saying, but it seems to be that he was, so I also know this, and I can't share a lot of it because it was shared on a Webby, and I think he's going into more detail at the Mastermind in Baltimore.
Yeah.
For any of you guys, I know we still have some seats left. If any of you guys want to come out to Baltimore, it's going to be pretty incredible. We do a pretty cool small group mastermind, and everyone gets a lot of value. So check that out. That's also on the Web20 site. But I don't want to share too much, but he was using a GMB for City 1, and he was ranking that GMB pretty far outside of the city. I mean, he was ranking it in other towns and other...
Were those other businesses, like legitimately providing those services?
Yeah, that was interesting. So I know he talks a little bit about that. If you guys go and check out localviking.com, we have a Webby there. He talks a little bit about the strategy there, or a decent bit. But then, there's some of it he's saving for the mastermind too. So if you guys want to hear, from his mouth instead of mine, he and I did a pretty hard-hitting local Viking Webby again. I'll tell you, we do really nice local Viking Webbies. I don't mean to toot our own horn, but beep beep.
There's a lot going on there with the GMB listings and and local Viking is. I mean, you guys got a lot of data.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It'll
be really cool as we expand the franchise stuff, and we can start bringing on like larger franchises, and we'll just have so much data to parse through. And
speaking of franchise, because that's a perfect example of where you have like all these locations, right? And you can see different things happening. Like when you look at a hotel GMB listing, they'll generally link you to where that hotel is because you're booking directly through that application with that hotel. Even restaurants will sometimes have specific sites you're going to because the menus might be different and things like that. So more from just more of like a realistic standpoint of what Google might be looking at on where you're linking that page. But what's interesting is that you brought up, first of all, having the sub-cities and then the sub-services. And one thing I wanted to mention is that the URL structure, it's the same one I use. But even then just using that URL structure and that kind of targeting with those keywords, structuring the interlinking of those silos together, you're almost essentially building little sub-sites for each one of your locations. Like preferably if you could have the menu just link out to those pages and then have the, you know what I mean? Like literally segment those funnels for those locations. And I've even tested with subdomains versus subdirectories. Subdirectories definitely give you more power because it's not splitting it up between...
Yeah, I don't like subdomains.
The interesting thing with subdomains, though, is that all the linking is looked at as inbound links, linking between the subdomains as opposed to interlinking. So I didn't get to go too far with that, unfortunately. But the point is, though, is that when you brought up that if it's in the same state or if they're close together, that you generally focus on like the home page and not kind of segment that between the different locations. And I think that's, I mean, realistically, say you have 3 businesses in the Chicagoland area, Google knows you might go to this one or that one, or you might like to travel a little further because your favorite waiter or hairstylist is at that location.
Sure.
So having that state level, I think that's really what we're talking about, is on a state level that I've noticed. Like if I have multiple states, I segment it by state, and then I go down into the cities, but then that main state page is kind of my home page for that area. But yeah, if you have like one in New York and one in California and you put them both on the home page, it's going to cause a very big confusion with the algorithm.
You bring up, yeah, I like that you expounded on that, because that brings me to 2 additional points. We have a multi-state client who has legitimate offices in 3 different states and a few offices in each state. So it's, you definitely have to have that additional category or that additional hierarchy there, and they dented it first, and it was a mess. It was like proudly serving 3 different states. Like, geez, that's tough,
Yeah.
And it also, it's not wasteful either, depending on, the market you're in. Obviously, like for example, when I bought my home, my mortgage broker was in Philly. It was 3 hours away. I wasn't anywhere near it. We did everything electronically.
Yeah.
And, so for him, depending what niche you're working in, personal injury, a lot of that can be handled electronically. It's not a terrible idea to have those state pages, because I found this, I found this as well, where state pages, they start getting picked up for smaller, less competitive SERPs as the overall domain builds authority, and so that's not a terrible way to structure either, by having that stop point. I guess there's things to consider. What niche are you in? How many markets do you cover, right? If I have an office like around here, and you work in Hanover, and it's a dentist, I'm serving people at those locations. I'll probably bypass the state page.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's definitely going to be SEO is so situational.
Well, see, the state page doesn't have to be a segment, like an internal page. So essentially, like, if you have 2 businesses in Hanover, then your home page is your state page, because that encompasses the state that you're serving with your 2 locations. So not necessarily that you're building out, so like that page would reference your 2 locations, but it would encompass the state also, and that would be relevant between both locations that you serve, kind of connecting those. So you don't necessarily build out a state page, but you want to look at the higher level of that optimization. On the state level is the brand in the state, and then you come down into the cities, and then the specific services or products within those locations.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Because yeah, state search, that is, I've done a lot with like lead gen sites, and state, there is traffic for state search depending on the niches. I got what you're saying about that. But generally people are going to search for a town or just search without any modifier.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about the local signals with that, so.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there was anything else. I was trying to check the notes for, like, I had a massive multi-location question that might have covered most of it, if not all of it.
Yeah, let's see.
I can't recall.
Oh, so